Okay, so this is general directions for your elements of nature or earth, wind, fire, water Photoshop project. Um, I'm going to do an example of just one of the elements with just basic directions for how to proceed with getting started and layering the different elements of your image that you're creating. Uh, so you're going to choose one of your photographs to start with, and you should have 4 different pictures that you're using, and ideally you've thought about your pose, etc., in terms of how it will work with the particular element that you're doing. And this is just a picture that I have on my computer, so that's what I'm going to use. Okay, so for starters, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select myself from the background and make myself a separate layer. Most people are probably going to use either the polygonal or the magnetic lasso. I personally like the polygonal lasso. If you use the magnetic lasso, remember that you can anchor it by clicking so that it stays where you want it, and that you can also press your delete key to back it up if it's gone someplace that you don't want, so if it jumped up or down or whatever. If you have a very plain background behind you, you may be able to use the magic wand, and remember you can hold shift and keep clicking until everything's selected. You can also change the tolerance level higher or lower to help make that selection easier. Once the background is selected though, then you would need to do select inverse to be able to have yourself selected. I'm not going to use the magic wand because there's too many shadows and stuff in there. So I'm going to go with the polygonal lasso. You want to do this pretty tightly, and I might zoom this in one while I'm doing this just so I can do it a little bit closer in. But I'm not going to do it maybe as perfectly as I would if I was doing it for myself, because otherwise you'll have to watch it forever while I go and click around, although I may be able to speed this up after it's done recording. Okay, so the reason that you are selecting yourself is so that you can make yourself into a separate layer. And once you are a separate layer, then you will be able to put different colors and textures behind you. You should be able to put different colors and textures in front of you by making multiple layers. Layers are going to be your best friend in this project and in all your other projects. And it never really hurts if you're not sure, just make another layer. You can always get rid of it. You can always merge it with another layer later, but in general, it doesn't hurt to just use the layers. And I'm gonna kind of ignore my little hair frizzies because it's impossible. So sometimes you have to make a little bit of a judgment as to what you really should include, especially with hair and stuff. I mean, you want the top of your head to not look like a, like you just chopped it and it's like a rectangle or something, but you have to kind of make a decision about what to keep and what not to keep. And I probably won't keep that little hunk of hair that's kind of flared up there. And I have to just kind of take all this as one piece sort of hair. So we'll just kind of make up where that's going to go. And almost done. With the polygonal lasso, you do have to be a little bit careful that you don't click too close together. So if you try to do 2 anchors that are too close together, it might just end the selection. If that happens, you can just hold your shift key and keep adding to the selection to finish it. Okay, so I'm going to zoom this back out now so that the whole thing is there. And I'm going to copy. So I'm doing Apple C, Apple V on my keyboard, but you can also just do edit copy, edit paste, okay? So here's my layer that I'm in, and here's my background. So you can see there's me taken out of the background. I'm going to click on my background layer. I'm going to select all, which is Apple or Command key A, or you can again do up here, select all. If you learn some of these keystrokes, it will make things easier later on. And then I'm going to press delete. On your keyboards, you need to hit the big backspace key, not the little tiny delete key, because that one doesn't work. I'm going to deselect, Command D, and now I have a plain background. I have my layer with myself in it. I would suggest that before you even do anything else, that while you're selected on the background, you go to Layer, Duplicate Layer. Oh, sorry, not duplicate. Layer, New Layer. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the layer that I'm in, and I'm going to do the same thing again. Layer, New Layer. Okay, so basically you have to think of this like it's a sandwich, okay? So the background is your bread. I would suggest that most people are probably going to put a solid color or a gradient into the background. Layer 2 is going to be like brushes and textures that you want behind you, okay? Layer 1, which is the one that you're in, should have just you in it. So a lot of people, like, they don't pay attention to their layers and they go on the layer that they're in and they start like filling colors in all around and putting stuff all over the top of themselves. And the problem with that is if you don't like it and it doesn't come out good, or I come over and suggest that you change something, you're not going to be able to do it because that stuff is now permanently on you, unless like you just did it and you can go back in your history and undo it. So the layer that you were in should have nothing in it except for you. Obviously you're going to do some colors and adjustments and changes to yourself, okay? But no brushes or anything in that layer. Layer 3, if you want anything to be in front of you or on top of you, it would go in that top layer, okay? So this is a process that you need to start working with because it's something you're going to need to do for all your projects. And conceivably you may want to do more layers than this. You can certainly add in more, okay? I think that I'm going to be doing water. I just want to check and make sure I have some water brushes loaded. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to pick like a blue color, kind of a dark blue. And I'm going to take my paint bucket and I'm going to fill the background with a pretty dark blue. And then on my layer 2, I'm going to use some kind of water texture brush. So let's see. Something that kind of looks like ocean. So I'm going to try a couple of these. Oops. I'm just going to change this to a lighter blue, just so I can see what these brushes look like. Make that a little smaller. Not that small. Okay, so let's see. That's kind of foamy. I don't really like that. Let's try something else. Alright, let's try that one, which is huge again. So we're going to try and get it to be approximately the size of this.